A board position for the Prairie Certified Crop Advisors is open, and I've decided to run for it. If you're a CCA, check your emails and look for the announcement. The voting is done by email and needs to be in by Friday, July 14th, not the 4th as originally stated in the email. If you didn't get an email, you can send one to Mary Jane DeBrawl. This is what I'm running on. Let me know if you agree with this. Scott has his master's degree in plant science and has been practicing agronomy in Alberta for 16 years. He runs his own consulting company focusing on regenerative agriculture and sees it being the future of agriculture as consumers and food processors focus on climate-smart agriculture. CCAs will need to learn this new way of doing things to become trusted advisors for farmers. Welcome to Plants Dig Soil. My name is Scott Gillespie, and I'm an agronomist specializing in climate-smart agriculture. I discuss scientifically proven practices that benefit both the planet and, just as importantly, farmers' economic sustainability. Be sure to visit my website, www.plantsdigsoil.com, for resources and information about the services that I offer. So this week's episode is my newsletter episode where I go through my monthly newsletter that I send out on email and on LinkedIn. And I just go through it and make it into a video version and audio version for the podcast so that you can listen to it if you don't have time to read it. So let's get into this. Now, as mentioned last month, the OFCAF, which is On-Farm Climate Action Fund program, has cut off applications. They are now saying that they have more applications than money available. Originally, they had been saying that it was going to be reopened in August potentially. Now, they've been contacting growers that were approved and telling them that they can only apply to OFCAF or SCAP, which is the Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership, under the RELP program, which is Resilient Agriculture Landscape Program, within the SCAP program. And I know there's a lot of acronyms, but that is just the way government programs work. Now, I don't believe this is true that you have to pick one or the other. There are some components of each program that overlap, and those definitely shouldn't be applied for twice. But there are many things that do not. Now, if you're not sure which to apply for or have received this email, even if I wasn't on your application, please contact me. I'll help you sort out what it is best to do and get clarification. These programs can be tough to navigate, but I've been doing them long enough and filled out enough applications that I know them well, and I can help you get the money that you need to try new practices. And finally, don't forget about my course, Profitable from the Start, Cover Crops for the Prairies. Unlike many of the free courses out there, I'm not selling the idea of making cover crops work. This is getting it backwards. The goal is to solve problems, not to use cover crops. It should take less than a day or an hour a day for a week to complete it. Well, there's a small window before harvest comes. Take the time to learn where they could fit. In the areas where drought has left your crop nearly dead, they probably aren't a fit. In fact, in most cases, they are not. In my course, you learn the places where they can work so that any money you spend on them returns back more than they pay. So now I'm going to go through the content summaries from June. If you're listening to this, then you should be subscribed. If you're not, then subscribe now so that you always get things. They are on YouTube in a video form. They're also on podcast in an audio form. In podcast, I have a link where you can go to subscribe, or if you're listening into your preferred player of podcasts, well, you've already found it, or you can search it out just using Plants Dig Soil or using the links, as I said. So I'm going to go through the content summaries from June, just so you can be up to speed if you didn't listen to them all. The first one is I reviewed a book called Cow Patty Critters. This book shed light on the often overlooked community of organisms that inhabit cow patties in Western Canada. Dr. Kevin Plote's research explores the impact of ivermectin, which is a commonly used medicine in animal agriculture, on these critters, and highlights the significance of studying post-cow patty ecosystems. The fate of nitrogen in cow patties is a crucial aspect to consider. Initially tied up in the bacteria upon deposition, a significant portion of the nitrogen can be lost to the atmosphere as gas. While this loss can pose challenges for ranchers, the presence of legumes in pastures can help replenish the nitrogen over the long run. Dung degradation is a fascinating and complex process that's influenced by various factors, from temperature conditions to the succession of different critters. The breakdown of cow patties involves a diverse range of organisms. Understanding this intricate process provides a valuable insights into the nutrient flows and ecosystem dynamics. The next piece of content I put out was my agronomy focus, and I focused entirely on something new that has come out called the precipitation rule. It's a groundbreaking new study that shows that 27 inches of precipitation is the threshold for successful cover crops. This rule of thumb sheds light on the impact of rainfall on cash crop yields, soil water content, and soil mineral nitrogen. The study highlights significant variations across climates, soil types, and crop management conditions. There's regional considerations to this. The study's findings found that regional factors determine cover crop feasibility. Tropical climates show a remarkable 15% in cash crop yields with cover crops, while continental climates experience only a 4% gain. However, dry and dryland climates see a decrease of 11 to 12% in cash crop yield, indicating a careful need for economic evaluation. So this highlights economic viability. The study highlights a crucial role of cost effectiveness in cover crop adoption. While cover crops can provide long-term benefits such as improved soil structure, the upfront investment must be economically justified. Farmers need to weigh the expenses against potential gains and consider factors like crop insurance and income stability in their decision-making process. And finally, I did a podcast episode on regenerative research results. So first of all, there was an article on slow-release fertilizer, and it showed that timed-release fertilizers aligned with the potato needs, and they show climate-smart benefits without yield reduction, which improves the product quality of the potatoes. Urea fertilizer strategies for winter wheat. Nitrogen stabilizer products offer advantages in high rainfall or irrigated systems, while in dryland areas, there may not be a benefit significantly due to fewer loss mechanisms. The legacy of phosphorus and fertilizer reduction, optimizing phosphorus placement and utilizing existing soil reserves can reduce current fertilizer applications without compromising productivity. Beneficial insects in agriculture. Quantifying and categorizing beneficial insects, including spiders, aids in the understanding of their role in pest control and ecosystem services, which can inform pest management decisions. Wetlands' role in agriculture. Preserving wetlands absorbs rainfall, reduces flooding, and supports biodiversity, which enhances farm productivity and sustainable land management. Wireworm behavior and management. Investigating wireworm management without insecticides highlights the potential of specific cover crops like buckwheat and brown mustard in reducing wireworm populations and crop damage. Seed selection for regenerative agriculture. Choosing potato varieties that require less nitrogen promotes regenerative practices, with seed farmers and companies driving sustainability efforts. And finally, gene editing for late blight resistance. CRISPR technology holds promise for enhancing potato resistance to the devastating late blight disease, but ongoing discussions surrounding its use, regulation, and labeling in agriculture are still hindering it. So that ends the content summary portion of this episode. I'll just finish with a few of the services that I offer. I had talked about it at the beginning, the SCAP, which is Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership. If you're a farmer in Alberta and you're looking at things like new technology, farm security, grain handling equipment, buying new or upgrading existing center pivots, installing drip irrigation, digging a well, developing water supplies for crops or livestock, decommissioning old wells, developing a food safety plan or upgrading an existing one, developing new products or markets, fencing in riparian areas, including perimeter and internal fencing, increasing legumes or establishing native or tame forages, adding shelter belts, eco buffers, and pollinator strips, intercropping annuals for grain harvest, cocktail cover crops for green manure or forage, or establishing or enhancing wetlands, get a hold of me because there is funding to $150,000 or even more for all of these practices. So get a hold of me and we can start working on these. There is also a summary video that goes over all of this in more detail as to what is part of the program. So I'd encourage you to check that out. As I mentioned, my cover crop course is going and it's a great time now to learn. It's self-directed and it goes whenever you need to go. It's not something where it starts at a certain point and you have to attend classes. You watch the videos on your own time and you can interact with me as you develop your plan. And I just want to finish off with the consulting packages. If none of those things work for you or you need some very personal advice for your farm, get a hold of me. I have consulting packages that will fit any farm. The pricing is reflecting of the independent structure of my business. You pay for the advice and that's it. I don't sell any products. I'll recommend them where I see fit, but I don't make any money from your use of anything I recommend. We can work remotely or in person or a combination of the two. You're not tied to long-term commitments. I give you everything and you're free to implement on your own or with another company. Of course, I always love to work with people over the long term. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you again next week.